Title: How Jeff Bezos Built the Rockefeller of E Commerce. The relentless playbook that rewired global retail. A garage, a printed business plan, and a vow to put customers first. Could that really become the company that reimagined logistics, cloud computing, and retail? What early dangers nearly sank Amazon? And how did Bezos turn those risks into the infrastructure that now defines modern commerce? Introduction: Bezos's audacious thesis. Jeff Bezos staked Amazon's future on an aggressive hypothesis: win market share and customer loyalty by relentlessly focusing on selection, low prices, and fast delivery, even at the cost of near-term profits. That implied huge upfront investment in inventory, warehouses, technology, and logistics, and a willingness to operate with thin margins for years. The strategy promised economies of scale and vertical control that could squeeze competitors and create network effects. But it came with existential risks. This first part examines the battles Bezos faced early on, the measurable effects as Amazon scaled, and the warning signs that demanded radical fixes. Part 1. Early problems Bezos faced. Cash burn and capital intensity. Aggressive reinvestment. Building inventory assortments, fulfillment centers, technology platforms, and international expansion required relentless capital, far beyond typical startup burn. Profitability pressure. The business model prioritized growth over near-term profits, creating vulnerability to credit tightening or investor impatience. Logistics and fulfillment complexity. Scale of physical distribution. Moving from books to a vast catalog meant far more SKUs, variable demand, and the need for complex warehousing and sorting systems. Last-mile costs. Delivering small parcels to dispersed customers at low cost and with speed was a new, expensive operational challenge. Supplier and manufacturer trust. Convincing publishers, brands, and manufacturers to sell through a tiny online player required overcoming concerns about pricing control, returns, and channel conflict. Early sellers hesitated to list, with a new actor potentially seen as undercutting traditional retail channels. Customer expectations and service reliability. Customers accustomed to brick-and-mortar immediacy were skeptical of online ordering for many categories. Returns handling, delivery reliability, and user experience were make or break. Technology scale and data problems. Building a scalable, resilient online storefront, search, recommendation engines, and catalog management required technical chops and investment uncommon in retail at that time. Handling payments, fraud prevention, and scaling website traffic presented major operational risks. Competitive response and market uncertainty. Incumbent retailers and booksellers, Borders, Barnes & Noble, brick stores, had real estate, supplier relationships, and brand recognition that could fight back. New entrants and dot-com peers created a volatile competitive landscape and investor sentiment swings. Organizational and cultural strain. Rapid hiring across engineering, operations, and customer service risked dilution of culture and inconsistent execution. Developing management systems for a fast-growing, technology-driven retailer was uncharted for many leaders. Part 2. Effects and early statistics, context and measurable outcomes. Note: figures are illustrative summaries from public historical accounts. Cite primary sources for academic use. Early growth and market traction. Rapid revenue growth. From book selling in the mid-1990s, Amazon sales grew exponentially year over year through the late 1990s and 2000s as product categories expanded. Customer base expansion. Early adoption by tech-savvy customers expanded into mainstream demographics as convenience and selection improved. Profitability patterns and investor expectations. Long periods of reinvestment. Amazon often reported low or negative net income while revenue surged, reflecting reinvestment in infrastructure and customer acquisition. Stock market dynamics. Investors oscillated between enthusiasm for growth and concern over profitability, particularly visible during dot-com fluctuations and later earnings cycles. Operational scale metrics. Fulfillment network growth. Amazon moved from outsourced logistics to building its own fulfillment centers and eventually in-house delivery capacity, dramatically expanding square footage and throughput. Inventory and SKU expansion. From thousands of book titles to millions of SKUs across categories, inventory complexity surged. Customer experience outcomes. Faster delivery and broader selection correlated with increasing customer loyalty and repeat purchase rates over time. Improvements in recommendation algorithms and UI increased basket sizes and purchase frequency. Market impact and competitive displacement. Category disruption. Amazon's online channel captured significant shares in books, electronics, and increasingly other categories, pressuring traditional retailers' sales and margins. Supplier and channel shifts. Manufacturers and publishers adapted to online distribution and later to seller/marketplace dynamics, changing traditional wholesale/retail relationships. Financial indicators of dominance. Economies of scale. As volume grew, unit costs for technology, procurement, and fulfillment fell, enabling further price investments and service improvements. Diversification into AWS and services. Amazon's infrastructure investments later spun off into profitable cloud services, altering corporate economics. Part 3. Signs and symptoms that signaled strategic strain. Cash flow and financing alarms. Frequent capital raises and debt financing. Heavy reliance on equity raises and financing signaled burn that required perpetual investor confidence. Sensitivity to market shocks. During downturns or investor skepticism, share prices and access to capital could threaten expansion plans. Fulfillment breakdowns and delivery failures. Late deliveries, lost packages, and operational bottlenecks during peak seasons indicated a need for deeper logistics capability. High return rates and customer service complaints rose when scaling processes outpaced quality controls. Margins under pressure despite volume gains. Low or negative operating margins showed that scale alone did not immediately convert into profitability. Cost structures needed re-engineering. Supplier friction and channel tension. Suppliers wary of Amazon's pricing approach, sometimes restricted terms or delayed participation. Channel partners feared disintermediation. Marketplace dynamics later introduced conflict as third-party sellers both enabled selection and competed with Amazon retail. Technological outages and scaling issues. Site outages or poor search/recommendation performance threatened customer trust during critical growth windows. Back-end system limits hindered rapid feature rollout or efficient operations. Organizational signals. Employee turnover in critical operations roles during stressful peak periods highlighted management and culture strains. Coordination problems between product, tech, and operations teams surfaced as product lines grew diverse. Competitive pressure and regulatory scrutiny beginnings. Traditional retailers ramped up online offerings. Emerging logistics players and marketplaces introduced new forms of competition. As scale increased, regulatory and antitrust attention would later become a strategic consideration, early signs appearing as debates about pricing, supplier treatment, and monopoly risk. Early diagnosis summary. Jeff Bezos' early signs showed the classic tension of a scale-first strategy. Tremendous customer traction and rapid sales growth, but persistent cash burn, operational growing pains in logistics and technology, supplier/channel resistance, and margin weakness. These symptoms made clear that achieving Bezos' vision required inventing or investing in capabilities that did not exist at the time. Fulfillment infrastructure, software systems, supplier onboarding processes, and a culture capable of relentless reinvention. Closing of Part 1. This completes the first installment. The founding problems, the early measurable effects as Amazon scaled, and the warning signals Bezos and his team encountered. Part 2 will analyze root causes in depth, review early attempted fixes that underperformed, describe the solutions that ultimately worked, provide a step-by-step guide to how Bezos implemented a Rockefeller-style strategy in e-commerce, include apt analogies and quotes, and finish with the distilled lessons learned you can apply to modern platform, logistics, or scale strategies. Part 2. Root causes, failed fixes, breakthroughs, implementation steps, analogies, and lessons. Introduction. Purpose of this part. This section explains why Amazon's early problems persisted, what early attempts to fix them missed, which strategic moves ultimately worked, a practical step-by-step playbook Bezos used to build scale and vertical control, vivid analogies and quotations to clarify the approach, and final lessons you can apply to businesses seeking scale-driven dominance. Part 4. Root causes: why the problems kept recurring. Strategy, capability mismatch. Bezos pursued a scale-first hypothesis: grow selection, lower prices, win customers, without the operational capabilities, fulfillment network, logistics control, scalable software already in place. The gap meant growth exposed weaknesses instead of compounding advantage. Underestimated complexity of physical logistics. Digital storefronts hid the hard costs of moving physical goods. Last-mile delivery, returns processing, and heterogeneous SKUs created operational complexity that simple growth metrics didn't capture. Cash flow timing and financing dependency. Prioritizing reinvestment over profits made Amazon highly dependent on continuous capital markets. Any interruption in investor appetite threatened expansion plans. Fragmented supplier and channel relationships. Suppliers and brand partners feared loss of pricing control and disintermediation. Amazon needed to earn supplier trust while also pursuing marketplace dynamics that could compete with those same partners. Technology scaling gaps. Early systems were not designed for the massive traffic, catalog size, and integration needs of a full retail ecosystem: catalog, payments, fraud, recommendations, seller onboarding. Organizational growing pains. Rapid hiring and new business lines, marketplace, logistics, AWS, strained coordination, governance, and cultural cohesion, leading to process gaps and execution variance. Incentive misalignments. Short-term KPIs, e.g., GMV growth, sometimes masked the health of the core unit economics, contribution per order, net margin after fulfillment/returns, leading to risky expansion without cost control. Part 5. Early fixes Bezos tried that underperformed and why they failed. Heavy discounting and free shipping promotions. Why it failed initially. These drove demand spikes that overwhelmed immature fulfillment processes and amplified cash burn without establishing durable operational advantage. Outsourcing fulfillment to third parties early on. Why it failed. Outsourcers lacked the scale, incentives, or integration Amazon needed for speed, cost control, and innovation. Amazon service levels depended on partners' priorities. Rapid category expansion without fulfillment redesign. Why it failed. Moving into toys, electronics, and groceries increased SKU heterogeneity and return complexity. Stressing systems built for relatively uniform books. Relying solely on marketplace listings to scale selection. Why it failed initially. Marketplace added selection but also fraud, quality control issues, and seller service problems until robust vetting, payments, and fulfillment policies were built. Short-term tech band-aids, patchwork integrations. Why it failed. Quick fixes created technical debt that hindered reliable scaling and feature development. Outages and poor UX persisted until architecture was refactored. Part 6. Solutions that worked. What Bezos and Amazon changed and why. Build fulfillment and logistics as a core competency. What they did. Invested massively in purpose-built fulfillment centers, automated sorting, robotics, and eventual last-mile capabilities. Amazon Logistics, Flex drivers. Why it worked. Owning fulfillment reduced per-unit delivery costs, improved reliability, allowed performance differentiation, Prime, and created barriers to entry. Create a subscription value engine, Prime. What they did. Launch Prime with paid membership offering fast/free shipping plus later content and services. Why it worked. Prime converted price-sensitive buyers into high LTV, loyal customers, smoothing demand, increasing repeat purchases, and justifying logistics investment. Vertical integration of logistics and infrastructure. What they did. Moved from third-party logistics to in-house trucking, sortation centers, air hubs, and then to developing delivery last-mile capacity. Why it worked. Vertical control reduced reliance on carriers, improved margins on shipping, and enabled tighter SLAs. Turned technology into a product and service. What they did. Built scalable systems for catalog, recommendations, payments, and then monetized those capabilities via AWS. Why it worked. AWS created a high-margin cash engine that subsidized retail investment and positioned Amazon as an infrastructure company, not just a retailer. Marketplace and third-party seller integration with robust governance. What they did. open platform to third-party sellers while implementing quality controls, fulfillment by Amazon, FBA, and performance standards. Why it worked: added massive selection and choice without proportional inventory risk, while FBA funneled seller logistics through Amazon systems, increasing fees and control. Data transparency and supplier/seller incentives. What they did: shared sales data, forecasting tools, and performance dashboards with vendors and sellers while using predictive analytics to optimize assortments. Why it worked: improved partner cooperation, better forecasting, and reduced inventory risk. Obsessive customer-centric metric focus and measurement. What they did: prioritized metrics tied to customer experience, delivery times, stock availability, and recommendation relevance over short-term profit optics. Why it worked: customer obsession translated into behaviors that increased retention, repeat purchase, and lifetime value. Lean experimentation and reinvestment loop. What they did: rapidly experimented, A/B testing, pilots, and reinvested wins into scaling infrastructure. Tolerated failures as learning. Why it worked: continuous improvement accelerated capability building without waiting for perfect solutions. Part 7, Step-by-Step Guide. How Bezos implemented the Rockefeller strategy in e-commerce. Stage 1. Define and obsess over a narrow customer promise. Choose a core promise: fast delivery plus huge selection plus low prices. Make every investment evaluated by its impact on customer-centric metrics: retention, repeat purchase, delivery speed. Stage 2. Validate unit economics and test pilots. 3. Launch pilots for new services, e.g., Prime, FBA, to measure LTV, CAC, and margin impacts before full rollout. 4. Use data to refine fee structures and membership pricing so services subsidize broader operational leverage. Stage 3. Verticalize key operational levers. 5. Move critical activities in-house, where third parties create cost or reliability constraints: fulfillment, sorting, certain transports. 6. Invest in proprietary assets, warehouses, sorting tech, air hubs, to reduce variable costs at scale. Stage 4. Build platform and ecosystem. 7. Open a marketplace to rapidly expand selection without carrying all inventory. Add services, FBA, advertising, that capture value back. 8. Use APIs and tooling to onboard partners. Automate seller operations and standardize performance. Stage 5. Scale infrastructure with a reinvestment loop. 9. Reinvest operating cash flow and AWS profits later into more capacity, larger fulfillment footprint, regional hubs, and last-mile networks. 10. Insist on continuous improvement. Reduce cycle times, automate repetitive tasks, and optimize routing. Stage 6. Leverage technology as leverage. 11. Treat software and data as core assets. Build recommendation engines, forecasting models, and real-time dashboards that drive operational decisions. 12. Monetize infrastructure capabilities that are surplus to retail needs, AWS, to diversify cash flow and reduce cash flow risk. Stage 7. Convert scale into supplier and market leverage. 13. Use forecast-backed volume commitments and data sharing to negotiate better supplier terms. 14. Convert sellers into customers for logistics and add products. So selection growth also increases fee revenue and stickiness. Stage 8. Institutionalize culture and governance. 15. Keep mechanisms for fast decision-making, two-pizza teams, metrics dashboards, while building governance to manage complexity. 16. Align compensation and hiring around long-term metrics, customer retention, operational excellence, rather than short-term sales spikes. Stage 9. Manage externalities and regulatory risk. 17. Anticipate market power consequences, diversify marketplaces, maintain transparency, and engage policymakers proactively. 18. Invest in community relations and local employment programs where logistics footprint expands. Analogies and memorable quotations. Analogies. Railroad builder analogy. Bezos built the modern equivalent of a railroad, massive, capital-intensive infrastructure that enabled others to move goods faster and cheaper, and once built, created tolls and ecosystem rents, platform fees, AWS services. Operating system analogy. Amazon's fulfillment plus software stack acted like an operating system for commerce. Others build apps, sellers, services on top and pay for the underlying infrastructure. Flywheel analogy. Bezos's own metaphor customer experience drives traffic. Traffic brings sellers. Sellers increase selection. Selection improves customer experience, spinning a self-reinforcing growth loop. Quotations. Jeff Bezos. We're not competitor-obsessed, we're customer-obsessed. We start with the customer and work backwards. Captures the guiding decision filter. Jeff Bezos on long-term thinking. If everything you do needs to work on a 3-year time horizon, then you're competing against a lot of people. But if you're willing to invest on a 7-year time horizon, you'll eventually be ahead of a lot of people. Explains patient reinvestment. Warren Buffett, paraphrase on economics of scale. It's the economic moat, the structural advantage that matters. Highlights the value of built infrastructure and network effects. Clay Christensen on disruption. Disruptive innovation often starts by serving overlooked customers. Amazon began with books and tech-savvy early adopters before expanding. Practical pitfalls and how Bezos mitigated them. Pitfall: capital squeeze during aggressive reinvestment. Mitigation: diversify cash engines, AWS. Maintain investor narrative of long-term growth and stage expansion by region. Pitfall: supplier alienation. Mitigation: provide value, seller tools, data, fulfillment services to partners. Balance competitive retailing with marketplace partnership. Pitfall: operational complexity snowballing. Mitigation: invest in modular systems, micro teams, and automation. Slow category expansion when infrastructure lags. Pitfall: regulatory and reputational risk. Mitigation: increase transparency, engage policymakers, and invest in community and labor programs where practical. Lessons learned. End of part 2. Build capabilities that match strategy. Ambition must be grounded in tangible capabilities, logistics, tech, partnerships. Strategy without matched capabilities leads to costly failure. Vertical integration can be a durable moat when paired with platformization. Owning logistics plus enabling third parties, marketplace, FBA, turns cost center investments into revenue-generating infrastructure. Customer obsession justifies long-term investment. Prioritizing customer lifetime value over short-term profit helps sustain reinvestment and build loyalty that competitors struggle to buy. Convert fixed investments into ecosystem rents. Infrastructure investment can be monetized, AWS, FBA fees, advertising, reducing dependency on one business line and smoothing cash flow. Experiment fast, tolerate failure, scale winners. A lean experiment culture coupled with disciplined scaling converts hypotheses into durable advantages. Data is both a weapon and a lubricant. Transparent, real-time data improves forecasting, supplier relationships, and operational responsiveness. It also enables monetization and partner alignment. Anticipate and manage externalities. Massive scale brings regulatory, social, and competitive consequences. Proactive governance and stakeholder engagement are necessary to sustain growth responsibly. Closing. Applying Bezos's blueprint today. Bezos's playbook shows that winning at scale in modern commerce is not a single leap, but a sequence. Pick a customer promise. Build or acquire critical infrastructure. Create ecosystem partners. Monetize platform capabilities, and reinvest to compound advantage. Whether you run a startup, scale a platform, or design logistics networks, the same principles apply. Align investments to strategy, obsess over unit economics, and convert capability into repeatable business models. As Bezos said, long-term stubbornness on vision, matched with short-term flexibility on details, turns risky hypotheses into industry-reshaping reality.